I'm Magali Laguerre-Wilkinson, and today we have everything from song and dance to cheese making and cats. Lots and lots of kitty cats. But first, we start off with a man who had a dream of having a professional career in music. 5 decades later, he's still living that dream. Andrew Falzone tells us more.
Some musicians try to tell a story with their music, but some musicians are a story all their own. When your career includes 2 gold records with Stevie Wonder, staff writing at Motown, and a nightly gig at the Palms, well, that's the story of New York City jazz pianist Brian Wells.
They were all pretty much there. You know, the Four Tops, the Temptations, the Supremes. And oh, did I mention Stevie Wonder, who recorded my songs?
The year was 1966 when Brian Wells first started as a staff writer at Motown. Still in college with a final exam the next day, the Detroit native was asked to cover a gig for an ill coworker. He resisted but was coaxed by his agent, who knew that night the room would be filled with opportunity.
So I played him a melody I'd written, and he liked it, and a few minutes later asked for another one, and before he left, he asked for a third. And he introduced himself. He said, "My name is Ron Miller, and I'm a staff lyricist at Motown Records."
In your youth, in that moment, did you understand the magnitude of, "Hey kid, I write for Motown, we want you to join the bandwagon"?
Let's put it this way. My nervous system practically congealed. Yes, absolutely.
Wells started at the label when it was in its heyday. Between 1961 and 1971, the Motor City powerhouse scored 110 top 10 hits on the charts, with artists including Diana Ross and the Supremes, the Four Tops, and the Jackson 5. But for a young Brian Wells, songwriting success would come on the coattails of Stevie Wonder, a then young artist who was finally finding success of his own.
How old are you, Steve?
$25.
No, how old are you?
I'm 16.
16 years old.
Stevie Wonder had just released a cover of Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind, but Wonder's next single, A Place in the Sun, would take Brian Wells along for the ride.
I keep running towards a dream.
How did A Place in the Sun come together?
Like they all do. You sit down and you grind out what you think is a viable, hopefully better than viable, a good or great melody.
Moving on, 'cause there's a place in the sun.
If I could explain the elements in that process, I think my bottom line would outdistance Bill Gates.
Wells' next hit wouldn't come for another 3 years, and there were some bumps along the way.
It just didn't do very well. Back to reality. Now I was from batting 1,000 to batting 500.
But from the ashes of a failed single came an unexpected hit.
What happened with Yester Me, Yester You is that it started getting played by a disc jockey somewhere, and it caught on. It's what was called, in those days, a turntable hit. The term doesn't exist anymore. And so that got back to the executives at Motown, and they said, well, they've done our selection process for us. So in 1969, 3 years after A Place in the Sun, it came out, and the rest is history.
Yester Me, Yester You, Yesterday would earn Wells his second gold record, but arguably his most prolific melody is the foundation of one of the most thought-provoking Christmas songs ever written. Originally performed by Stevie Wonder, it's been covered by a diverse group of artists including Pearl Jam, Mary J. Blige, Jack Johnson, and Justin Bieber, and for Christmas 2015, it was the centerpiece of an Apple ad campaign which featured an unforgettable duet between Stevie Wonder and soul singer Andra Day. With his Motown days behind him, Wells has transplanted himself to Manhattan's Upper West Side. He switched his sound from pop to jazz, and for the past 16 years, his stage is a nightly gig at the upscale steakhouse, The Palm, Upper West Side.
Well, what you're going to hear on any given night that I'm there, Tuesdays through Saturdays, is the jazz standards, meaning the Tin Pan Alley standards. And then you're going to hear my pieces.
Wells' original music spans a collection of 3 CDs where he leads the Brian Wells Trio.
I'm in love with the tenor sax, the trumpet, the trombone. But for what I do in my style of playing, my happiness is piano, bass, and drum.
2016 marks 50 years since Wells began his career at Motown, but he has no plans on retiring anytime soon.
Music, and specifically the piano, and specifically, again, playing and writing jazz. It's what I'm here for.
I'm Andrew Falzone for Arts in the City.
The Charleston was the rage of the Roaring '20s. The Watusi and mashed potato scream 1960s. And today, it's hip-hop. But showbiz professionals will tell you there's one dance that never goes out of style. Here's Barry Mitchell.
Tap, a relic, a pleasant bit of nostalgia from a bygone era. Oh, really?
Tap is an art form. It's one of the great American art forms.
Brian Siebert is the author of What the Eye Hears, A History of Tap Dancing. And when his fingers aren't tapping the keys of his laptop, he taps.
I called it What the Eye Hears to get at the fact that tap is something visual and oral. The core definition of tap is playing music with your feet. Everything else is kind of extra.
Here's Vanessa. She's going to show us a time step. Take it, Vanessa. There you go. That says tap to me. That's showbiz for you right there.
The amazing Blackburn twins. So let's have a nice hand.
You might say tap is the Rodney Dangerfield of dance.
Sometimes it doesn't get the respect that ballet gets, for example. Tap doesn't get respect that it should get, partly because of where it comes from. It's a mixture of cultures from Africa that came with slaves and cultures from the British Isles, especially the Irish. It doesn't exist in either of those places. It had to come here through the mixing of cultures that is the American story.
Stories like the legendary Bill Bojangles Robinson.
Now you just watch.
I don't want to.
Bill Robinson became famous with the Shirley Temple movies. He was very famous for his stair dance, which I recommend you go see. If you've ever seen it, you can find it on YouTube. It's like one of the great tap numbers of all time. You can see him playing with the staircase the way you would with a musical instrument.
April Cook teaches tap at Broadway Dance Center.
One of my favorite reasons for tap dancing is it's such a shared art form, and I love that you can't just get a video and learn how to tap dance. You probably could, but I think the traditional way of doing it is word of mouth and teacher-student, and I think that is just beautiful. I love that. Shim Sham?
Sure.
Okay.
The Shim Sham is a traditional dance in tap dancing. It was created in the late 1920s, and it's the kind of dance that all tap dancers know.
And if 2 or more dancers have to perform unexpectedly with no rehearsal,
They would look at each other and they would go into the Shim Sham because that was the dance everybody knew.
demonstrated here by Brian Siebert and Sarah Reich.
Savion Glover is still a leader in the field. Tap can also be very small. It can be a refined art that you're just moving your feet in a subtle way.
And generating lots of buzz.
Kazu is an example of how tap has spread across the world. He's an amazing tap dancer who was born in Japan. There is a sense in which tap was so widely popularized in these movies from the 1930s and 40s that when those movies stopped being made, it fixed it in the past, which it's not.
What do you plan to do with your tap?
Be on Broadway.
Be a Radio City Rockette, and if I can't get that, then I would love to be on Broadway.
My lifelong dream is to be a Radio City Rockette.
Tap is definitely still alive, and you can see it in the young people who keep learning it and keep bringing it into a new art form.
Shuffling off to Buffalo, Barry Mitchell for Arts in the City.
For some of the theater's youngest cast members, it's always Kids' Night on Broadway. They include the clever British schoolgirls in Matilda, the boys in Finding Neverland, and His Majesty's many children in The King and I. Pat Collins reports on the newest kids on the block starring in School of Rock.
So, if you're in, raise your hand. Yes, you're in the band. You're in the band.
I was sort of the cliche high school kid who had a lot of angst and picked up a guitar and then sort of put it down. So I got a guitar, I had one lesson, I hated lessons and put down the guitar and didn't care, and I learned by memorization where to play guitar, and so I started doing it that way and loved it and did it for a couple years, and then created a punk band in high school, and we were horrible, and that's like the most cliche thing ever, and then put it away. For this show, they got me into lessons to learn how to solo and to really look like I know what I'm doing and noodling, and I learned also just as a bonus, I got to learn music theory for free.
Alex plays the irrepressible Dewey Finn in the stage adaptation of the 2003 Jack Black comedy about a struggling rock singer and musician who is mistakenly hired to teach fifth graders at an elite private school. There are 18 kids in the Broadway cast, including these three stars.
I'm Dante Malucci.
I'm Evie Dolan. Hi, I'm Luca Padovan.
And you are the stars of
School of Rock.
All the young talent on the Winter Garden stage are well-trained musicians.
Oh, it's probably a good time to tell everybody in our viewing audience that you're not faking it. You're playing those instruments.
Yeah. Everybody, all the kids play live. So that's really fun.
Yeah. Anytime you see someone
somebody playing an instrument,
they're actually playing.
There's a very big difference between kids and professionals who happen to be younger than I am. And that is a big thing that I'm trying to promote with this show, is that these aren't kids. I think kids it feels to me such like a belittling term. They make me believe in reincarnation. They're so smart.
School of Rock is a unique assignment for award-winning choreographer Joanne Hunter.
We purposely wanted children, young kids, to not be so seasoned. We wanted rawness. We wanted to make sure that these are the kids that people see on the stage feel like real kids, not showbiz kids, not theater kids. The choreography is purposely not to look so slick. It's to look that they would do this on their own.
Which of the numbers was the most difficult to choreograph? Of course, one of the showstoppers of one of the many is You're in the Band.
That was a hard number because it had to be very storytelling, of each individual young character picking up their instrument, learning, and they all can play.
They had to pretend to be beginners.
They had to pretend that they had not played guitar, that they weren't so good, so we could watch their growth and their enthusiasm. So that was tricky for them.
They had to be professional amateurs.
I love it. That's your exact. They had to be professional amateurs.
School of Rock is entirely about music empowering young people and what music can do.
School of Rock's behind-the-scenes team includes Andrew Lloyd Webber, who composed the score, book writer Julian Fellows, the creator of Downton Abbey, lyricist Glenn Slater, and director Lawrence Connor. The grammar school rockers of their hit show have other responsibilities after the curtain comes down.
Homework. When do you do it?
Well, for homework, we usually, on Wednesdays and Tuesdays at night, we have tutoring. And for the rest of the week, we either go to school or we just do the work from our apartments or houses.
Of all the stars now on Broadway, Alex may have the busiest social schedule.
I've never been invited to more birthday parties than since I've joined this show. I don't remember the last time I got invited to 17 different birthday parties, all with themes.
We are the School of Rock, and school is out!
In addition to School of Rock, Andrew Lloyd Webber has another show a few blocks from here. It's The Phantom of the Opera, the longest running musical on Broadway. I'm Pat Collins for Arts in the City.
Next up, Carol Ann Riddell tells us about greeting cards that get real. From empathy and love to awkward dating. She explains how you can send your message with a side of sass.
Emily McDowell designs greeting cards that say the things many of us think but aren't quite sure how to put into words. Take, for example, this one, which reads, "Please let me be the first to punch the next person who tells you everything happens for a reason. I'm sorry you're going through this."
The idea came years ago to me. I had cancer when I was 24. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I remember getting get well cards and being like, a card that says get well soon, when you give it to someone with cancer, they're like, okay, cool, I'll try. Like, thanks, and you're like, thanks for the card, of course, but the actual sentiment on the card is a little strange.
We caught up with Emily during a recent trade show at the Javits Center. Now the CEO and creative director of her own company, Emily is very clear about what informs her work. Her manifesto starts with, "Let's get real," and real it is. Like this empathy card. One more chemo down. Let's celebrate with whatever doesn't taste disgusting. The 5 stages of grief: crying in public, crying in the car, crying alone while watching TV, crying at work, crying when you're a little drunk. Or this little love note: there is nobody else I'd rather lie in bed and look at my phone next to.
I make cards for the relationships that we actually have, and that means that relationships are messy, and sometimes they're not perfect, and sometimes they're weird.
Why do you think these cards resonate so much with people?
I think it's so powerful to have your own reality validated. That's what people seem to really relate to about our cards and really like, is saying, you understand me, I feel like I could have written this, or I feel like this was in my diary, like this gets me, and this gets my relationship in a way that I haven't seen before.
As Emily explains it, she launched her company based on the success of one Valentine's Day card dubbed the awkward dating card. We've all been there.
It's a card that says, like, this isn't that big of a deal. I know we're not together, but it felt weird to not get you anything, so I got you this card, and it doesn't have a heart on it. And we sold like 1,700 of that card in a week. Wow. Which was totally crazy.
That was in 2013. Since then, Emily has expanded her business to include mugs, bags, pins, and more. Her line's available on her website and in some stores like Book Culture on the Upper West Side. Though her business is growing, the humor and irreverence stay the same. If this is God's plan, God is a terrible planner. No offense if you're reading this, God. You did a really good job with other stuff like waterfalls and pandas.
Irreverence is really important, just as a coping mechanism for life.
I would agree.
And I think that, the humor that I use is more coming from truth than coming from trying to make jokes.
Carol Ann Riddell for Arts in the City.
Our next story is perfectly delightful. If you're thinking of adopting or fostering a cat, Tina Beth Pina may have the perfect solution.
While dog rescue is popular in New York City, not as much attention is being paid to cats until one photographer and one stylist got into the picture.
I really wanted to do cat rescue because there's not a lot of awareness about cat rescue out there.
That's our goal, is to bring awareness to cats in need of adoption, and also, the homeless cat population on the streets of New York.
According to the ASPCA, 3.4 million homeless cats enter animal shelters across the U.S. every year. In an effort to raise awareness, photographer Shayna Fishman and stylist Ryan Blaschke teamed up to take fun and unexpected pictures of cats hoping people would fall in love and adopt one.
It's extremely important to adopt a rescued animal off the street for many reasons. One being that you're giving the opportunity for them to have a long, healthy life off the streets, giving them all the love in the world that they deserve, like any animal deserves. And also, you're helping your community, your neighborhood.
Rescue cats come in all colors, ages, breeds, and temperaments, which is perfect when it comes to getting ready for their close-ups.
Some cat is great and they love it. Other cats, it takes a little time. It's really figuring out what that cat will do or what it needs. Does it need a toy? Does it need maybe a little treat to get it to do what we need it to do to get our shot?
Different cats have different energies, so we'll try out different ones sometimes until we find the right one that's for the right character.
Some of the characters include Harry Potter, Star Wars BB-8, and Happy's Pharrell Williams.
Well, originally we started just with the kind of a fun idea of doing kind of current figures or very recognizable figures, things that would be cool and fun and current and silly and entertaining. Can't believe that there's that character on a cat.
Yeah, we wanted people to be able to easily recognize the character. Just something really relatable that people instantly look at it, and not only do they see this great character, but they see this adorable cat.
Do certain cats inspire certain looks?
I kind of saw the orange kitten. I thought, orange kitten, that would be perfect for Trump. I think the black cat worked perfect for the Maleficent horns. We've been lucky to have really wonderful cats and kittens to work with. The rescue group has given us access to all their cats and kittens, so we've sort of been able to pick and choose the ones that will work really well for the characters.
Shayna and Ryan have been working with Brooklyn Animal Action, but are open to work with any rescue group.
We're happy to promote any adoption work all across New York or elsewhere.
All the cats we photographed for the last series have been adopted, but that doesn't mean there aren't more amazing cats and kittens to be adopted. If you fell in love with one of those cats, I guarantee there's another cat just as amazing.
There are other cats just like him that are available for adoption all over the city. To find out who, just visit your local animal shelter. For Arts in the City, I'm Tina Beth Pena.
Ah, cheese. Ever wonder how it gets to the deli counter? Well, our Ari Goldberg entered the cheese cave to find out.
Technically, it's not a cave, but we imitate the environmental conditions of a cave. The things that we want to grow, the molds, the bacteria, they thrive in more humid environments.
PJ Jankalunas is the cave manager for Murray's Cheese. And to enter the complex with him, you need to suit up like you're walking into a top-secret laboratory. If you don't keep the cave sterilized, foreign bacteria and mold on your hands or your clothes could get in and affect how the cheeses age.
Some of our softer cheeses, Camembert-style cheeses, they could be ready in a couple weeks. Some cheeses in here are aged up to a year or two.
So how much does one of these blocks weigh?
These ones right here are about 100 pounds.
A 100-pound block of cheese. That is wonderful.
And a lot of that cheese ends up at Murray's flagship store in Greenwich Village, where I finally got to eat some. Lisa Griffin is the associate director here.
Murray's Cheese, well, we are the oldest cheese shop in New York. We've been here for 75 years now. We just celebrated our anniversary. Very exciting. We started right across the street. Murray Greenberg founded the store right when it was just a small kind of mom and pop cheese shop. And 2 owners later, Rob Caulfield, took it over. And we've just become such a wonderful neighborhood kind of cheese haven. We try to sell cheese, but also everything you could ever want to eat with it at the same time.
For the sake of thorough investigative journalism, I assume we'll have to try every single thing here before we leave, right?
Whatever you like.
Just
We're
for the
happy
story.
to sample it. I'm happy to.
Not personally, just for the story.
Right, of course. It's a tough job, right? Okay, so when you taste, you really always want to also smell it at the same time. 80% of flavor is actually from your sense of smell. So before you put it in your mouth, definitely give it a little whiff. We have a lovely goat's milk cheese from Vermont called Bonne Bouche. Maybe a little barnyardy, a little goaty, but nothing crazy. It's a younger cheese.
You had me at barnyardy. This does feel like almost going to a wine tasting. There's so many layers of how to try something.
Well, this is actually one of my other favorite parts of my job besides talking about cheese and eating cheese and helping people find cheese. We have classes here every night, and I love teaching classes. We have classes about wine and cheese, whiskey and cheese, beer and cheese, cheese 101, mozzarella making, you know, and just to talk about it, eat it, let people learn how to taste it.
So for wine, they have a sommelier.
Correct.
What do they have for cheese? Is there some special title?
Well, we do, the American Cheese Society every year has an exam that they give, the Certified Cheese Professional exam.
Cheese Professional.
Correct, and I did take the test last year and I passed it. So
There you go.
I am a certified cheese professional.
And they really do know what they're talking about at Murray's. With classes taking place virtually every night, experts like Lisa make eating cheese even more fun than it normally is, beyond just what you'll find in the deli case.
When you have a wash rind cheese, those are the cheeses that people usually think of as like the feet smelling cheeses. They tend to be more pungent.
So we're going from barnyardy to feet smelling.
Yeah.
It's a nice step up. Okay, I'm in.
All right. We have at any given time around 250, sometimes more.
250 individual different cheeses.
Individual different cheeses. And yes, I've tasted every single one. That's usually the next question.
Many of these cheeses are shipped directly from local craftsmen or imported straight from France or Italy, but many of their favorites come straight from their own creations back at the Cheese Caves.
How many different cheeses are you guys making here?
In our caves, right now we have roughly 40 cheeses in it.
40 different cheeses in these caves.
Cheese is really made, it's a very scientific process, but it's also made with a lot of love. So I really love to share all of those maker stories and talk to people about cheese, help them find something that they're gonna love as much as I love it. Cheese brings people together.
From the Cheese Caves at Murray's Cheese, I'm Ari Goldberg for Arts in the City.
In this month's Hidden Gem, Donna Hanover takes us to Lower Manhattan, where your sweet tooth can find its oh-so-sweet spot.
It's better than a card because you can eat it.
It's handmade candy. What can be more delightful? Papa Bubble is where the magic happens. Tucked away on Broome Street near Mulberry, the shop is where Lisa Klein makes sweet dreams come true.
When we pour our candy at 160 degrees Celsius. We pour it on this table, which gives us the opportunity to add color.
And colors there are, along with sugar and a seemingly endless variety of natural oil flavors. This painter's palette of sweetness is gently stirred and mixed together following a time-tested formula.
Today we're making a candy in our star mix. We're going to hand sculpt a star in it.
But getting from here to there takes a lot of time and attention to detail. As the raw candy cools, it's cut into sections and placed on a special heated table where the real work begins. The warmed material is kneaded by hand, and some of it is stretched on hooks.
So I'm just stretching the candy to add air into the candy, which changes the texture.
Then it's back to the prep table. Making the final product can take up to 5 hours. Perfection can't be rushed. At this point, arranging the flexible strips is where true artistry comes into play. A misplacement could result in a misshapen candy. The roll gets bigger and bigger. Then the material is pulled out into slim rods that are cooled and chopped into these long stems. When they harden, it's candy time. A final chopping by an experienced hand is required to turn the tasty morsels into candies ready to be bagged and sold to a hungry public. The imperfect shapes make for a perfect Papa Bubble treat, edible art for any occasion.
That's our show for today. For more information on any of our stories, log on to CUNY.tv. I'm Magali Laguerre-Wilkinson for Arts in the City.